Hey guys, welcome to our weekly talk. We're going to be talking about qualification. Why is this important? It's basically a numbers game. And we're also going to be talking about failing and buying data. Okay? So let's get to it. As always, I am sharing with you guys my business adventures. It helps me to remember them. It helps me to learn from them. So I'm sharing them with you. So qualification, what does that mean? And what I mean by when I say it's a numbers game. Well, it's a numbers game because the more samples you have, the better chances you're gonna find that one thing, okay? So that was kind of super general. So let's talk about specifics. So let's do this. So there is a restaurant, right? And here's the restaurant. And I'm a consultant for this restaurant. This actually is happening right now, right? So here's me. And so I want to take this place from, a particular sum of money to, twice as much or 3 times as much. One of the problems that a lot of restaurants have is staffing. Right? This is very tough. It's an industry with a very high turnover rate. People come and go. It's not a particularly well-paid jobs, so people can feel free to change. Plus, if you're like a waiter or like a cook or like a busboy or somebody in a restaurant or like a dishwasher, what's the difference between being a dishwasher or a cook or a waiter in one restaurant as opposed to somebody else, right? So staffing, here the main problem is turnover. Why is that a problem? Well, because when you hire somebody, you got to go, through, the time that it takes and the training and all that, right? So how do we solve that? Well, here is how we are solving it in this particular instance, and it's the topic of our conversation, qualification, to qualify. So what does that mean to qualify? Well, to qualify, it just means to create different filters that we can pass people through. And so at first we look for lots of volume, and then we start getting narrower, right? So for example, for this particular job posting that I'm offering at this particular company that I'm consulting in, so the first thing is a post, and this post is in a job site. So I give them a description, and the post already has a lot of qualifying things on it. For example, one of the things that I talk about there, and I got this from one of my mentors, he says, put there, only superstars allowed, right? So I even say in my post, don't waste my time if you're not a superstar. And I mean it, because I think that good is actually the enemy of great. I want great, I don't want good. The bad ones I can always fire. We'll talk about that in another talk, but good is not good. I want great, that's what I want. So first is a post, right? After they schedule a post, then I do a reply. In that reply, I get them to schedule a call with me. Right? So I basically send them a link, and they have to figure it out, I guess, if they can figure out how to click on a link, and then it'll take them to a screen, and in that screen, it'll be like a schedule, and that's actually my schedule on my phone. So they schedule a call with me, right? Then the next step is actually show up for the call. And you guys are probably wondering, well, that's not much of a qualification, but I'll show you the numbers that I have so far. And then after that, then we have like group interview, which we'll have actually tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna live stream that group interview, but maybe I'll show you guys a little bit of that, okay? So this is the qualification process. Each of this is a filter that I'm passing lots of volume. Volume, my goodness, if I can write. Volume. I'm sorry guys, my handwriting is just bad. So I'm passing a lot of volume. So just to give you guys the numbers that we're looking at, about 60 people, this has been in a week and a half, have replied to my post. So 60 people have said, look, I'm interested in the job. So what do? I reply, right? So out of those 60, there's been a couple that I didn't reply for because maybe they lived out of state and I need them, like, I need this group interview, like, you know, tomorrow or something, or very soon. We wanted to do this in, you know, within a couple weeks. So I didn't reply to every single one, but let's say I replied to 50, right? Out of those 50, only about 25 have actually scheduled a call with me, okay? Out of those 25, only about, like, I think it was 17, because I had one show up this morning, actually shown up for the call, right? And so this number right here is the one we'll find out tomorrow. So you see, we start with, you know, with lots of volume, people that are just browsing through jobs, and maybe 60 to 50 to 25 to 17. My forecast tomorrow is that we'll have, you know, yeah, probably 10 or less show up tomorrow. So this is the qualification process. And why is this important? Well, it's important because these people that actually show up, perhaps I put another filter here. These people are good prospects. These are good prospects. So I don't have to waste not a minute of my time with number 58 here that might not represent anything. But I can focus on, let's say, 5 people. But they will be highly qualified because I've put them through all these different hoops, right? Now, this is true in every part of your structuring, right? You could do this for your clients. And for your clients, this is great. For your customers, you know, not every customer is a profitable customer. So you definitely want to qualify them. This is why clubs have memberships. It's a qualification process. We want everybody to feel comfortable, whether it's a club, maybe like a, you know, like a nightclub. That's why they charge money at the door, right? It filters down people. You don't want just anybody walking in there, right? Also, you know, even, you know, it sounds ridiculous, and I always put this example. I'm definitely not like a master of this, so I'm not saying that I am. But for example, for dating, right? And so let's talk about that. That's the next thing I wanted to talk about. Numbers. It's a numbers game. Numbers, let's just say numbers game. So why is it a numbers game? Well, just think about it. If you want to date, you know, a really hot girl or a really hot guy, right? And you only hang around 1 or 2, right? The numbers are against you. You're going to have to essentially win the lottery or, you know, win the jackpot to be able to score. But if you hang around lots of them, well, guess what's going to happen? Yeah, you guessed it, right? You're going to, statistically, that's going to happen. You're going to be able to accomplish your goal. So it's a numbers game. So why, you know, you might think, well, Gabe, I already do that. That's easy. Of course I know that. Yes, but are you applying it though? Right? In other words, how many jobs did you qualify? The jobs? How many jobs did you apply before you got the one that you got right now? And the reason that I believe, and this is the reason, and a lot of these talks is me teaching to myself, really. The reason that I didn't do this as much, I think I did it to a certain extent, and I think I did it in some areas of my life more than in others. But the reason that I believe most of us sometimes don't want to do it is because of this little word right here. And it starts with an F. It's not that one. Failure. This is it. We equate, if we qualify 100 jobs and we're not fit for any of those, we equate that, we feel that, well, that's failure. But that's not quite it, right? It's a numbers game. So failure, or not failure, you know, like I could think, for example, my job posting, I could think that something is wrong with it because only 60 people applied and not 100 or 1,000. Well, I don't know. I don't know that. I'm gathering information. So that's a little bit has to do with statistics. So it's a numbers game. Now there's a concept, it's called a statistical significance. And just like the concept states, you have to test a certain amount of whatever you're trying to test for it to give you useful information. So for example, if I apply for 2 jobs, right, and I don't get any of those 2 jobs, I can say that my failure rate is 100%, right? And that would be a true statement. Failure rate of 100%. But that's not really true, is it? Because these only two jobs does not represent enough statistical significance. It doesn't really do that. What I need to do, as a matter of fact, the word percent, 100%, it means per 100. Yes? So, what I really need to do is apply for 100 jobs or 1,000 jobs. Now the information that I get from there is going to have a lot more statistical significance. Now, this is very tricky, and it depends on the research that you're doing. Daniel Kahneman talks about a lot of cool stuff. Also, another scientist, his name is Antonio Damasio, I believe so. He talks a lot about, what constitutes statistical significance per case, and this can get really complicated, but you don't have to get complicated. All you got to do is test enough and not be afraid of failure. Now, we're all afraid of failure. Nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to go ask a girl out and get told no. Nobody wants to do that. Or a guy, or ask for a job and say no, we're not hiring, or we don't need, or get turned down for whatever the reason. But here's the way to overcome that, and this is a little bit using logic a little bit, but if you use logic and start sort of telling yourself these little things, it'll start to affect. I think I recorded a different video on System 1 and System 2. If you guys watch that, and if you haven't, you should watch it. It'll start to affect your subconscious, your System 2 a little bit. So for example, what the last concept I wanted to talk about being a numbers game, about failure, and about this one, buying data. Okay? So what does that mean, buying data? Well, just think about it. Once you go through these cycles enough, right? If you say, okay, if you apply for 1,000 jobs, if you made 1,000 calls, if you made 1,000 emails, if you ask 1,000 girls out, you'll start to see a percentage, right? And that percentage, let's say 100, so the numbers stay real easy for us, okay? So let's say that I ask 100 girls out, or I apply for 100 jobs, right? And let's say that I only get a call back from 10. That will be 10% success rate, right? That could be one way of looking at it, right? The other way to look at it is that I need 10 applications per a single application of a good job. So my real statistical significance number after I do this one time at least, or a couple times would be better, is 10. So instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to apply to this job, or I'm going to talk to this girl, or I'm going to try to get an investor, this one investor, or this one person. Again, you see what I'm saying? That this very minimal is like, I heard a guy talk one time about how you plant carrots. I don't know if you guys know, but the carrot seeds are very tiny. They're like little tiny seeds. So how you plant them is in the spring, you just plant a whole bunch of them, in little spots. You don't plant one. See, most people they want to get that one just perfectly in the correct spot for it, and it's not going to happen. What happens is the farmers plant these little tiny seeds, and then they come back around, and the ones that have grown the most, they leave, and then the other ones they cut off. How can they know that beforehand? You can't. Their variables are too much. So what you do is you plant a whole bunch of them, because you don't know which one is going to hatch. So, but after you do it for a while, you'll start to get data. And this data is much more important. This data is what you're looking at. It's what you need. So 10 out of 1, that's great. Now you can focus on the 10, and you can just go 10. So when you're going, instead of thinking, okay, you know, this better work. No, you just think to yourself, okay, I need 10 per every one. So you go into an interview. You go into, you know, a bar or a club or a restaurant for a blind date. Or you go in looking for an investor or looking for a client, for a prospect of client, whatever it is. You go in thinking, okay, this is 1 out of 10, or this is 2 out of 10, or this is 3 out of 10, and it doesn't matter if they say yes or no. It's like you are going to do 10, or you're going to do 20, whatever your number is, to establish some statistical significance. So really, you're not wasting your time. You're not, you know, hurt, really. I mean, you can be, but you know. But if you keep saying this to yourself, what you're really doing is buying data, so that you can start to establish benchmarks, and these benchmarks will then be what you really measure everything in. Right now, if I do another job post, and only 2 people apply, I know I've done something wrong. Or maybe I do another job post in a couple of weeks, and you know 200 people apply. Well, maybe I have to look back at the one I did before and go and start revising it, because that is going to completely change my benchmarks. But once I have them, and once I you know, keep experimenting and, you know, just tweaking things here and there, I'll start to buy more data on that and just become better and better and better. Okay, so don't be afraid to qualify, whether it's your job, whether it's, you know, a potential boyfriend or girlfriend, whether it is you know, your clients. You know, for example, in marketing, that's one of the things that I do with my clients. I get them to qualify your. It's not enough to just put a billboard and then have everybody see it. Well, great, everybody sees it, but you know, for example, if you're a company that's selling lawnmowers and you put a billboard so that everybody sees your company, well, that's great. But how many of those people are in the market for a lawnmower? How many of them even have a lawn? Maybe a lot of them don't, right? So those dollars that are spent on that advertising can be better leveraged somewhere else. Why? Because we can qualify them, right? So it's one of the things that I do with my clients, and when in digital marketing, I qualify. We find out who is that person that is going to be the right client, the right person. And so now I'm applying that to hiring. Same thing. So hopefully I'll come up with some kind of staffing, really cool staffing system that I can teach, you know, even other restaurants, so they can minimize turnover. And man, we have some training that in the call I go through a lot of their personality stuff. I ask, because I really want to qualify them as a human being, because in the end we're all people. So I try to do that. So there's the talk for today, guys. Qualify. It's really a numbers game. Don't worry about failing. We are buying data to create benchmarks that we can measure everything against. Okay? I'll see if there's any questions. I don't think I'll stay, but thank you guys for coming. Certainly keep watching my live stream and keep giving me feedback. Lots of great feedback. Thank you guys so much for the support. I get a lot of messages and a lot of likes and a lot of cool stuff. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys.